So how many of you have a mentor? Raise your hand. Yes, I expected that in this crowd. Now, how many of you are directly in the position that you're in today because of that mentor? Raise your hand. Yes, me too. So what we're here today to talk about is how to scale mentorship. So for organizations who are looking to hire folks, this is a great platform for you to understand what type of mentors your job candidates have had versus what kind of people they are currently leading within their organizations. So that's how we're going to disrupt a $200 billion industry known as recruiting. So let's just dig into the prototype. So this is my mentorship network. Now, some of these faces are in the room, which really gives me goosebumps. But what I've done over my career is identify that there are 6 different mentors that every person needs in their career and how to evolve those relationships. So now what we're trying to do is scale that. So as you can see, there's a spot for a missing mentor. What the platform actually allows you to do is where to find that mentor, how to start the conversation, and how to grow the relationship. So that's exactly what this side of the platform does. On the back side is the side that companies are super excited about. So this is your ripple effect as a mentor. So basically it takes the testimonials from the folks who you are mentoring and creates your mentorship platform using algorithms. It's super cool. What organizations in Charlotte keep coming to me for is the ability to see how effective the leaders in their companies are. So imagine if you had that perspective. So how did we get here? Well, 2 years ago, I was actually the head of engineering for a male-dominated industry. And in that time, I realized it's so hard to find mentorship outside your organization. How do you grow that relationship to be more than just a coffee introduction? And so I started mentorship events. That grew into a community, which many of those women are here today. They're all wearing pink, which is so cool. But that actually helped us see the need for this. Many, many women are looking for mentors. And when we actually take mentorship out of the informal, unorganized, unable to quantify gray area that it now is and give it some structure and format, suddenly we know who we're looking for. We can give you the questions to ask, and we can show you how to develop those relationships. So how do we make money? Well, this is the fleet of revenue. So we actually have 4 ships. We have membership, we have partnership, we have sponsorship, and we have ambassadors. The 2 on the ends, members and ambassadors, are individual profiles. So they're actually the folks who are creating the profile on the platform. If you want education around how to find mentors, that's a premium profile. If you want education around how to be a pop-up mentor, how to share your expertise with others, that's a premium profile. The ambassadors are the great folks in this community who understand that we must be a community that recruits top talent. They're already taking money out of their pockets and investing in this platform. The partnership and sponsorship is very much the HR organizations that are coming to us already. This is existing demand. The minute we have this platform, we'll be able to turn this on. So the partners are organizations who are interested in developing a mentorship platform within their organization, and they'd like to use what we've already developed. The sponsors have done a lot of work about how to create good leaders in their organizations, and now they want a way to showcase that and attract top talent. Both of them are willing and excited about using this platform as an opportunity to look at their job candidates. What type of mentorship has that job candidate had, and who are they now developing within their current roles? So with that, we're asking for $500,000 to build a platform that is going to reinvent mentorship. Pop-up mentor. Thank you very much.
Great job, Stacy. I really appreciate that. And I would say that as a female entrepreneur in technology, I understand very well firsthand the need for what you're doing. So I think that the problem you're solving is real. I still struggle with it 11, 12 years in. So I think that it's great that you've started this. Would love to hear a little bit more in your pitch about the traction that you have. Just even, a story, 2 stories, a couple of things, even within, you say the partnership, the sponsorship, just one quick 10, 15 second, here's an example of what that looks like. I think that would help us to understand, okay, I get it. I get what that group, that business, that individual, that mentor gets from the platform. I'm going to stop there and give it over to Mark.
Okay. So I almost always start my comments off with this is a really weird format, right? 5 minutes, get up, nail it, and then, so this format, just to translate to the real world, because this isn't really the real world, but it's an awesome spot in the real world, is you're running around, right? There's 3 or 4 conferences a year, you hit the conferences, there's 15, 20, 50 investors, right? So venture investors in the room. So what you're trying to do with that audience, which is more just looking for how do I screen this opportunity, right? So when I go back to my office as an investor, how do I stack rank this idea? And so through that lens of trying to nail the first 500,000 of angel, seed, venture, whatever kind of capital, right? So what I'd say is the energy and the enthusiasm you bring, keep it at the level you're at. It's high, but it's good because it sets the tone for you. And I think it's also very genuine. It gives a sense of you're in and you're dedicated, which sometimes people don't deliver that, so good job delivering that. You hit a couple concepts early, and I would just ask you to kind of refine those concepts. So disrupt recruiting, I think I heard you say that. You were moving kind of fast at the beginning. You were definitely amped.
I was nervous.
Yeah. So it's all good, right?
100%.
So when you're on a stage in front of 100 people or in front of 5 people and you're asking for money, it's always the same energy level. It's enthusiasm, but tempered. So find those big concepts. If you are going to disrupt recruiting and add value into that part of the economy or the business world, pick up on that idea and then let that idea play through as you explain your business model. So I was a little bit okay, disrupt recruiting. There was a leadership effectiveness, big companies are using this platform to help develop their leaders or evaluate their leaders. I couldn't tell exactly. So you just didn't hook me exactly until I kind of saw the platform, which isn't a problem, but it's just you got 5 minutes. So you want the hook to set relatively early, because the ask here is really hey, I'm looking for some capital. This is the 5-minute format is to get me to kind of follow up with you so we can have that 1 hour, 2 hour meeting where we can dig in on what you're trying to do. So I don't know if that made sense, but I'd say a lot of abstracted ideas up front, just refine them, pick 1 or 2 of those themes that are going to drive to a business model. And then when you present the platform, it's oh, I think I get that. It feels like a LinkedIn merged with something else. So you don't have to use analogs to explain yourself, but get there sooner, I guess is my point. And then one more thing. When you kind of closed on I'm going to build this thing with $500,000, I would get a lot more refined again on what you're going to build. The way you just kind of described the platform, it still stayed at a high level for me. So I'm trying to judge, is this still just an idea with really good, slides, or you've been at this for 2-3 years now and you're ready to develop a prototype or kind of a minimum viable product that, a venture investor is going to say, okay, cool, if we're going to fund that, what are the 1 or 2 or 3 things that your MVP is going to teach you as the founder or teach you and the team or us as investors? Because it's not the only money you're going to raise, right? So that money is going to get you to a milestone. If you're going to build something, it's helpful to kind of show people hey, the first version of this thing that I'm building is going to kind of prove this part of the value prop. And then it's okay, now we've got a startup versus an idea. So that would be my kind of, just to be harsh about it, is it still feels like an awesome idea. And I would love to see it just kind of turn one more screw into that kind of wow, this is a fundable product. So yeah, anyway, a really cool idea. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just to answer Angel's question, so to give you an example of an organization that's using it. So you had mentioned Women in Tech. So Charlotte Women in Tech actually outsourced their mentorship program because as a nonprofit, they don't have the bandwidth in order to serve mentors and mentees within the organization. So they outsource it, and we use this format in order to serve all of their members. And going to your question, This is actually something that has been in play in Charlotte, which is why the women in pink are here today. So we have been actively doing this for 2 years, but in a person-to-person model. And now what's happening is the scale and the demand within organizations is getting so huge. Charlotte companies are so excited about quantifying and having metrics to their mentors that they're like, it's more than I can take. It's like, I need help in trying to scale the platform. So that's where the technology comes in.
Got it.
That's great, and actually that would be another piece where I forgot to mention, would love to hear about your experience, what makes you the person to build this at this time. And I think you have a story. That's the piece that we were missing. That is, I think, your secret sauce. That is what differentiates you from anyone else in doing it. Obviously, you have people who are passionate enough to come out with you today. So what you're doing is working, and having what you just said, hey, this is really working, here's what's working, and this is why we want to take it online, because we want to scale it to other cities or whatever it is.
100%. That's exactly why I'm here today. So my whole career was built on opportunities given to me by mentors. So I've worked in the startup space. Before this, I was the director of new product development in an engineering firm. Each one of those, a great mentor, who I didn't realize at the time, but I had spent a lot of time and energy into demonstrating my expertise in front of them. And I was actually looking for those 6 categories of mentor to advance my career. So the reason I am here today is because I walked through those doors on the shoulders of great mentors. And it just makes me super emotional, which actually a mentor that's here today taught me, you can be emotional in your pitch, so thank you, Mr. Elmore. But it's those types of moments where we should all have those opportunities for that great mentorship and leadership in our careers. And this is the platform to do it.
Yeah, just one more. So to come on the tail of that, then, like the next slide, it needs to be like the articulation of what the 500 is going to do. Again, just to be very nuts and bolts. I'm not trying to tell you not to be emotional and psyched about this. I love that part of the pitch, but you're not going to get a lot of calls back unless you're like, hey, the 500K is going to do the following. It could be 4 things, right? Like build this. As an engineer, like how much it costs to build software.
Yes.
So I would get there a lot faster, or at least get a presentation that kind of really solidifies that for me. Because otherwise, I'm like, oh, awesome. I'm either investing in this concept because of I don't know, just my desire to want to support it, which is going to be that's a tough investor crowd to raise capital from. I mean, I was the CEO and co-founder of a tech startup that was very focused on financial literacy and social good, and we always talked from the heart, and it really worked to build adoption and excitement, but it never translated into business success, right? Eventually we shut it down. There was no business model. So I'm not saying you have that risk, but I do know, like, you got to get out and get into that, like, here's what I'm building, here's why I'm building it, and here's what we're going to figure out with that first 500. I think that's going to get you more.
So I do have a team of
investors.
tech advisors,
Cool.
and we have built like what the platform looks like in developing it, and that would be right now around $230,000 the way that we're looking at just for the MVP. And then beyond that, the funding would be used to scale. So we already have interest in Philadelphia, New York, Atlanta, and San Francisco. And so just the moment we turn this on, what you saw here was $1.2 million in Charlotte. Other organizations, especially through the nonprofits like Charlotte Women in Tech and Girls Who Code and all those organizations, they have chapters all over the United States. So it should be a pretty, not easy, but it should be able to spread based on what's happening in Charlotte.
Yeah, I would actually do a slide where it's like, here's 4 examples of Charlotte NGOs or nonprofits, and here's how they're going to help me scale. Because until you just said that, wasn't even in there.
I landed them all after I did this slide, so
Nice.
it's actually
Cool.
really funny. I was growing.
Cool.
Great job, Stacey. I'm
Thank you.
excited about what the future holds. I think
Awesome.
you've got a great idea.
Thank you very much.
Good job.